Hey, how we doing? Good evening. Welcome along to Paranormal Monkey Podcast. Hope you're all well and enjoying the weather or not. And I hope you're staying cool as much as you can. I think it's meant to be getting hotter and hotter, certainly in the UK this week, but it's all good at the minute. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining me. And it's going to be a very different one, a very actual first for the podcast this evening. So it'll be the very first time we talk about anywhere haunted or remotely mystical or interesting from Northern Ireland. So really pleased to welcome Chalie Hall to the podcast. Good evening, Chalie.
Hello. Hi,
Hello.
thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. So we've got a lot to kind of cover because you are a lady of many different talents and lots of different things in lots of different areas.
Yeah.
So did you want to kind of tell everybody a little bit about yourself before we get cracking and get started? Is that all right?
Okay, yeah, no worries. I'm a paranormal writer and researcher. I am a horror writer and short filmer, medium, musician, and brand ambassador of Haunted magazine. So very busy lady. Yeah.
really busy. Yeah, exactly. So where do we start? Where I suppose we need to start with, what was it that first got you interested in, whether it's the paranormal or paganism or the mediumistic side of it? Where did it start for you? And was it a particular experience, or was it something you kind of enjoyed and kind of got into as you went on?
Well, from a very young age, I was able to see, hear, feel spirit. I mean, obviously, when I was younger, I wasn't sure what it was, what was happening. But my mum told me, no, I don't remember. But my mum said when I was about 3 or 4 years old, her and my stepdad were in another room, and they heard me hysterically laughing. So they kind of walked in the room to see what was going on. And apparently I was rolling around on the floor. And they sort of said, what's happening? What are you doing? And I said, it's the man, mummy. The man's tickling me. And of course, they're horrified. There's nobody else in the room.
Yeah.
Like my mum, they asked me to describe the man, and I told them about him. And she believes that the man that I described may possibly have been her father, who passed away when she was 13.
Oh, wow. Okay. So something that actually you listened to the description of this man and it kind of made that link with her, did it? Were you able to describe him, or was it just something like the feeling that she had who it might have been?
Well, she said, apparently I actually described him. I said, what he looked like, and said he was quite tall, had dark hair, and she just really felt it was her father. So
Fantastic. And
Yeah.
I mean, have you always had that? Or have you developed the mediumistic side of things over time? Is it something you've kind of trained yourself in or learned as you went on, or
Yeah.
has it just always been kind of there for you?
I think it was always there in one way or another. Like I used to get when I was younger, like premonitions. I used to get dreams and things of future happenings. I wasn't really sure what it was, and I kind of tried to ignore some of it.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, it just became more and more and full on. And I did actually end up going to like a mediumship circle, a psychic circle, just to try and sort of work it out and try and control it, because sometimes it would just be there all the time.
Yeah.
And even in the nighttime, sort of, I would just see things, hear things, like in my bedroom as a kid. I mean, that was a really strange house we were in anyway. There were things happening, but I used to always wake up in the night seeing a woman standing by my bookcase with a hat on, and I'd be like, what the hell, so it was just kind of there. But I did try and enhance it through psychic circles. And
Yeah. And I mean, obviously you describe yourself as a researcher, not necessarily like an investigator, but do you go out to haunted locations
Mhm.
and try and make contact, or is it something that you just want to write about a particular place?
Yeah. Well, I think because I'd had so many experiences throughout my life, and I do actually go to places that I hear of that have got hauntings or things that have happened, and I just thought, well, I'd like to actually share these experiences, because I'm not even sure exactly what they are.
Yeah.
I wanted to share them with people, and the places that I go to, I know most mediums say this, but I if I hear something's haunted or there's been a happening, I don't look into it at all. So I
Yeah.
just go to a place knowing, okay, this is possibly haunted. And then I go in and sort of do a mediumistic sweep and see what happens.
Okay, so we obviously this evening we're going to be talking a lot about Northern Ireland, and
Mhm.
straight away people in the chat are going, "You don't sound as if you're from Northern Ireland
Yeah.
whatsoever. You just sound like a Londoner. What's going on? You're pulling my
Yeah.
leg." So, what
Well,
is the link with Northern Ireland first and foremost?
yeah. So I was born in Northern Ireland. I am from there, but I've lived in London a long time. But my family is still over there. And my dad, who is, he used to be in Van Morrison. He's a druid in Northern Ireland. He's still over there. So I go back and forth, but I swing in and out of my accent.
I mean, that's straight away. I mean, like your dad, obviously, you say you're a musician as well,
Mhm.
and I mean, you obviously being so the Van Morrison band that they had a large number of band members. That's the first thing, isn't it? They kind of chop
Yeah,
and change quite a lot. And so your
quite a
dad
bit.
was one of the band members
Yes.
for Van Morrison. And anybody who doesn't realize Van Morrison in Northern Ireland is like God in terms of is like a big, massive cultural deal, basically,
Yeah.
amongst other things. But how was your dad always a druid as well, or was it the musician? Was he always a musician first and foremost, and then
Yeah.
got interested in this? Because we'll talk about this later on, won't we? About
Yeah.
this him going to do these druids, stone circles, and such like.
Mhm. I mean, I didn't actually meet my dad until I was a teenager. But it was like when I did meet him, it was quite funny because I heard he was in Van Morrison. I heard he was a mystic, and obviously at the time I was in my band, just about to get my record deal. And of course, when we met, he's done music his whole life. He's been in several different bands, and he is a producer. And I think I just kind of was so chuffed to realize that we'd never met and we were into exactly the same things. And I think he's been a druid for quite a long time. He's the founder of the Ulster Druid Order.
Okay,
So
so he's been in a while. Then, obviously, if he's founded it, obviously
yeah,
it's in his blood in a sense.
oh definitely. Hmm.
Yeah, fantastic. Right. So now my views of Northern Ireland are a little bit coloured because I grew up in the 80s.
Hmm.
And during the 80s, it was all about the Troubles. It was Enniskillen, the Oma bomb, and it was
Yeah.
the IRA. And we had, growing up, you have a pretty bleak view of Belfast, Northern Ireland
Hmm.
generally. And obviously, all of that is gone, thankfully. So
Yeah,
do you
thank
want to kind
goodness.
of paint a picture of the Northern Ireland that you know and that
Yeah.
you love?
Yeah, because I wasn't brought up there. I came here at a very young age. I wasn't very familiar or brought up in that kind of era of the Troubles. To me, it's my homeland that I'm very, very proud of, and I love it, and I feel very, very connected to it. And I just love the way, for me personally, with Northern Ireland, there's so many folkloric tales. There's so many magical hidden places that people just don't know about. And
Yeah.
that's why, I go around and find them. And like me and my dad, we go on mystical road trips. We just kind of drive out for hours, see what we can find and what we stumble across. We might stop, to do a ritual. Or so for me, it's a very magical, place rich in history and just fantastic stories and
Yeah.
places.
And as well, I suppose that people would say that Ireland is very much like that. The Republic of Ireland is very much like that. Very mystical. There's something spiritual going on in Ireland, but
Yeah,
not many people say that so much about Northern Ireland. You always hear it, and it's always, you know, about
the other
the
side of
Republic,
Ireland.
not about Northern Ireland. So you're kind of
Yeah,
would argue against that, I'd imagine.
exactly. Well, that's the thing, and that's why I started writing about a lot of it. I started going and investigating the places and going to actually experience the land, because for me, I'm very sort of grounded and like my dad, we like doing rituals when we're on these lands, because there's so much energy you can feel and pick up on from the past, and especially me as as a medium as well. Then I feel and see more of that, and I thought nobody's really told these stories. And even with some of them, as a child, I remember, and people would tell me these stories of these places I went to, like it was, your nighttime story from a book, like a fairy tale book or something. And a lot of the stories are, or they do actually stem from real historical things that people have just maybe elaborated on in time, and they still tell them all today. And I love that. Absolutely love it.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is, obviously we're not going to be an exhaustive list of all the places that are haunted
No.
in Northern Ireland, but some of your favourites as well.
Mhm.
So should we we'll get started, shall we?
Yeah.
In terms of, so let's go for this first one.
Oh,
Now then,
Bonamagi
you said
Friary.
this is your favourite. So
This is my
sorry,
favorite.
name this place again. Sorry, but is it?
Yep, it's a Bonamagi Friary, and it's in Ballycastle.
it
And I mean, I
Go on.
stumbled across this place by accident. Like I said, me and my dad were out driving, and we were looking for somewhere, and we just happened to notice this ruin, and we pulled over and went into it, and it's the quaintest little place, and it just has a really strange feel about it, like something's kind of luring you to it. And when you go in there, if you've got time, to actually explore, I mean, there's all sorts of strange graves in it. There's skull and crossbones graves. There's apparently a grave of a 127-year-old person. There's Masonic ones. And, we walked around for ages. And by the actual entrance, or what was the entrance to the friary, is a very unusual headstone. It's like, I think it would have originally been like a Celtic cross, but now it's just a round like grave with a cutout hole in the middle.
Yeah.
And of course, I went away and I researched it because I thought this is really, really strange. And it is actually the grave of somebody from like the 1500s, a lady called Julia McQuillan. And she was there in the friary, staying there, and she was known as a prophetess.
Oh,
And
okay, that's cool.
and the more, I mean, I researched this story for a long, long, long time, and the more I found out, the more I just wanted to go back, and I was fascinated, because I think because she had quite a mysterious appearance, and as she was a prophetess, I think people in a way kind of feared her, because back then that was kind of seen as something that people didn't really understand.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think there's 7 main prophecies that were documented. Now, obviously, I won't go through them all, but the main ones, because they've been linked to actual happenings in time now from, the future. Like, for instance, there's one story about where she had said about ships without sails, like way, way, way before steamships were created. She also made a story, or told a story about a place where the water went red like blood. And there was an incident in a local mill nearby, where somebody fell into the water, and unfortunately they lost their life being crushed under the water wheel. But the main one that everybody knows is she had prophesied about a red-haired priest who she said would drown before mass. And
Right.
then in the 1940s, there was actually a Father James McCann, a red-haired priest, who had gone swimming nearby at a place called Pan's Rocks. And he unfortunately drowned in a whirlpool that's known as the Devil's Churn, which is over there at the rocks. So that was linked to that prophecy.
And do you know roughly what kind of era she was around? What year was she around? Because obviously was she a long time before obviously that incident?
Oh yeah, that was back in the sort of 1500s.
Right,
Like
fantastic. Okay.
really, really, really long time ago. But there's so many stories there. Like if you look it up, and I have written a feature before about it, because even people over the years have seen her in the main window. That's unfortunately there's not much of that left over there now, but she used to be seen there with a candle light, and people have seen her walking around the actual graveyard. And there's a strange story actually about how, like many years ago, they said that the monks that were there originally had buried some of their treasures.
Right, okay.
And in later years, I think locals and the media and people had picked up on this story. And after a while, the police actually saw that holes started appearing in the ground of the graveyard and the cemetery, and they think it was because people must have been looking for this buried treasure, which, according to the stories, is that the treasure apparently is buried as far as the eye can see with candlelight from that main window where she stands. But it's just a story that's been passed down over the years.
And have you, like I say, and obviously this is one of your favorite places. Have you visited this place a lot? Have you tried to get in contact with anything whilst you were there?
Yeah, I mean, I've been there. I've been there twice, and there is an old story that's told. I mean, first of all, the locals call it the land of dreamless sleep. And there is a story that they tell of how if you circle her grave 7 times clockwise, 7 times anti-clockwise, and put your hand into the middle of it, that she's supposed to appear. Now, obviously, as a medium, if ever I do anything like this, I sort of say a mantra, and I will say something, to the spirit energy, because I mean, no disrespect, no harm. I go there purely just for research purposes and just to find out if and what's there. And so my dad and I thought, because this has been passed down for years, we thought we would do this. And he said, well, why don't I film it? And we'll see, what happens. So as I started circling the stone, I started to feel like something was behind me. I started turning the other way. And then I stopped, and my dad was sort of had the camera, and I said to him, there is someone standing behind me. I could feel someone standing behind on my left. And all of a sudden he had the camera, and he's sort of looking, and he went quiet, and he looked up at me, sort of looked over the camera, and I thought, that's strange. So anyway, afterwards, I went over to him and I said, was there anything? How was it? And he said, that's really strange. He said, because as you were circling, he said a ripple went across the camera. And he said, that's why I looked up, because he thought someone walked past. So, of course, I was like, oh my God, quick, I want to see the footage. I want to see what we've captured. And I kid you not, I was absolutely mortified. I took the camera, the whole thing went into error mode, and it said it was all corrupt. The screen went funny. And I was like, no, I want this footage. Of course, we're checking it. And I said to Dad, are you sure you recorded it? And he said it was there. I saw it on the file. I got it. And I don't know what happened, but whether it's just a coincidence, my camera completely broke. The whole memory card wiped of the footage that we filmed and my whole day's photos from the place as well. So it was very strange. And then, I mean, we left and I was absolutely mortified. I was so upset that because I wanted to see what he'd actually seen on the camera. And of course, all of a sudden he came over really quite unwell, and we had to go. And it was just a really strange sort of change of, turn of events that kind of happened afterwards. So I did actually mediumistically, go back in, say a little prayer, say some words, and say, obviously, we meant no disrespect, no harm, apologies. And,
I mean, it's a beautiful place. I mean, is it quite a remote area, or is it within? Is there a village nearby? Is there people nearby, or is it quite remote? This place?
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's in a field, past the beach of Ballycastle. But unfortunately, they have actually built a golf course now behind it, which is.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I was like, what? All the, it's going to damage it, all this stuff flying around, but it is still remote. It is in a field, and it's just lovely to walk around. And as I said, there's just a really strange feel there. And that's why I felt I had to go back. I felt I had to, do more on the story. But I love it there. I absolutely love the place. Yeah.
It is lovely. I mean, it already see. I mean, I love a good ruin. In terms of
Yeah,
like
me too.
obviously these places just look great. So we'll go into next. We're going to a hotel. Really, it's a
Oh,
castle
yes.
hotel, I believe.
Mhm.
So Ballygally Castle.
Yes, this is Ballygally, which is near a place called Larne. And again, I'd heard of the place. I really wanted to go there. And funny enough, my aunt and uncle actually one day just said, "Oh, we're going to take you somewhere." And I didn't know where. And as soon as we pulled up, obviously, I was really thrilled to know it was Ballygally. And that's what you can see in the picture there. That part on the left is the old original castle from many, 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 many years ago. So they kept that as it was. Obviously, it's changed a little bit and then built the hotel onto it. So it's been
Yeah,
extended. And when you go in there, there's a very different feel from, the old part and the new part. And of course, I couldn't wait to get straight into the older part of the castle. And
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely,
I was
yeah,
like, get me in there. And when you go into that, there's like a really old stone staircase, like spiral staircase. And when you get to the top of that, there is a room that they have called the ghost room. And of course, it's a tiny, weeny little corridor. So it's like, breathe in, up you go, up the stairs. And it's right at that top, one of the top turrets that you can see there in the picture. Now, this room, there's a story from many years ago about a lady, Isabella Shaw, and she apparently was locked in there. Her husband had locked her in. Now, there's a few variations of the story. They say either way, she had a child taken away from her. She was locked in there. One story says it may be because it was, an illegitimate child. The other story is just that he wasn't a very nice man, wanted the child and locked her in. So I didn't know any of this. And when I went up into the room, there's a window by the other side of the turret.
yeah,
And I was really drawn to this window. And as I walked over, a spirit energy lady came up behind me. She had dark hair, she had a long dark dress, and she's pointing. She's going like this out the window. So I kind of looked around, and I tried to say something to her to see if she would actually talk to me. She just kept pointing out this window. So I thought, okay. And I walked over, and we found out afterwards that she actually had tried to climb out that window to break
right,
free
okay,
and to find her child. And unfortunately, she fell out of that window and passed away. And it's such a sad story because the room, I know it's a very old building, I know it's cold because it's really old, but you feel a real heaviness and sadness in there. And it was really strange because I went downstairs and I thought, oh, I'm going to have a little nose about and see what's what. And I flagged down one of the members of staff. And of
yeah,
course, there's downstairs from the ghost room, there is like a room which they now use for, just events and functions. And the girl said to me that apparently the staff all the time, when they try and set that room up, they experience that the cutlery gets moved or gets crossed, put like this on the tables.
yeah,
And they said glasses have flown off on the floor, and they said napkins go everywhere. And it was so sweet, bless her, because she said to me, she told me a story about when she was actually doing the laundry. She said, "You would not believe. I was in the laundry room. I opened the drawer door, and the towel flew out and flew across the room." She said, "Scared me half to death." Bless her. She literally said she's not tries not to go stay in that room too much on her own again. So it was really
that's.
quite a
I mean,
sweet story.
it is really strange, but it's fascinating to have you kind of recall, what you saw in that place, though. I
Yeah.
mean, for anybody, obviously, those people in my chat know, I'm quite a skeptical person. There's lots of people who are quite skeptical in the chat, but in terms
Yeah.
of what you experience as a medium, do
Mhm.
you visually see things, or is it in your mind that you feel as though there's something there? How do
Yeah.
you experience these things?
Um, it's quite hard to explain, but the best way for me to explain as to how I experience it is when I say I see something, it's not like I see it with my physical eyes, like, like I'm looking at you now.
Yeah.
It's almost like, in my mind, there's another overlay screen.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like I'm looking with my eyes, but then I'm seeing something in here, like another image projected. And the same with when I hear things as well. It's not like I just hear with my normal sense. It's like I hear it in my head. And sometimes like some places that I'm at, I can see two parts of time happening at once. So again, with my physical eyes, I see now,
Yeah.
and then then I can see in my other overlay sort of sight another time playing out at once. It's very strange. It's very
I
surreal.
was going to say, how do you not go mad with that? Do you know, I mean, do you know what I mean? Genuinely, the fact that you can, obviously experience two different things going on at the same time.
Mm.
Can you kind of focus on one more than the other, or is it just completely combined in that respect?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't always happen. Like when I'm in my normal sort of, my boring everyday life kind of thing, it doesn't. I mean, sometimes it does. If I'm out and about, I might just, something random might just happen, or I hear something. But I think I'm just used to it now as well, because
Yeah.
I've had it all, it's happened all these years. And I must admit, I think my belief system as well has actually now started to change. I think after all the years of research and experience, and, all the places I've been to, all the, if you want to call it spirit or energy connections that I've made, like had you have asked me 10 years ago, do you fully believe you are actually talking to, dead people, like the actual sort of definition of a medium,
Yeah.
I would have said yes, absolutely. But now, I mean, there's definitely something there, definitely, or I wouldn't have had all the experiences and other people that have had them. But I'm not sure what it is now. I'm starting to feel and think quite a bit more on the quantum theory.
Okay. Yeah. I've heard that a
Yeah,
lot, actually. I've heard that a lot from a
I
lot of people.
yeah. The more and more I look into that, the more I read about it, the more I experience my mediumship now in a different way to how I was before. Maybe just because of all the experience I have had. I'm starting to wonder if, like, I'm starting to believe that everything just is, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
all of time, whether it past, present, future, it just is. It's there, and I call it a field. And I feel personally, but I could be wrong. I'm an explorer like everyone else. I'm still learning as well. But I can't help but think that we're tapping into these different parts of time, or different, if you want to call it, dimensions or fields of time. And I think
Yeah.
that's how we can kind of dip in and out of it, because I personally believe that people, like anybody, can tap into this, not just mediums, psychics. I think that everyone is able to do it, but we've just kind of forgotten how to do it, or we're trained or taught not to. And that you can, because it's just like your gut instinct. When you
Yeah.
walk into a room, you feel something doesn't feel right, something. That's exactly kind of how the mediumship or the energy connection is, except you're using more of your senses than just your gut feeling. So you're actually opening up to that. Mhm.
Yeah, I find it. I genuinely find it really interesting to get your perspective on these things
Mm.
as well. Just before we move on, do you know
Yeah.
how old the original part of Ballygally Castle actually is, roughly?
Oh my goodness. Do you know, I should know this. And off the top of my head, I actually can't remember.
That's all right. We'll look it up.
Sorry,
So
I should know this.
somebody will Google it.
Yeah.
Somebody will Google it. It's fine. It's all good.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's beautiful. It really is
Yeah.
beautiful.
I'll just tell you one more quick thing about there. I have to, because it's just a fantastic story. When my mum and my aunt we came out of the old part of the castle, and just downstairs they went into the loos. And I'm standing outside, and there was a bit of a kerfuffle, and I'm like, what's going on? Next minute, my mum and my aunt came running out the loo saying, oh my goodness, did you walk in there? And I was like, what? They were like, did you come in the loo? I was like, no. Did anyone else come in? I was like, no, nobody came in. I've been standing here the whole time. And the two of them then, really excitedly started telling me that when they went into the loo, they'd gone into the separate cubicles and they heard somebody come in. And they said they heard walking around, and then they started thinking it was each other. One of them had come out.
Yeah.
And they said, but it was the weirdest thing. They said, we started hearing this, like, as they put it, like a swishing or swishing, like there was material dragging on the floor or something.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
said, well, look, I was outside the whole time. I guarantee you nobody went in there, because I was standing waiting for them. And then again, when we looked it up afterwards, there's a story about a Lady Nixon, who many, many years ago was a friend of the family, and she stayed there. And they say that people hear her walking around and the swooshing of her dresses as she dressed very grand and in very heavy sort of silk dresses, and that you could always hear the dresses swishing around. Now, coincidence? I don't know, but we were so excited when we found that out. Really excited.
That's a hell of a story, though. That's great that you
Yeah.
actually. Well, that I mean, did you? See, did you not hear that, or did you? Was it just the family members that heard that?
No, I was outside at the bottom of the staircase just waiting for them, and I didn't see. There was nobody walked in there. I didn't hear anything. I just sort of like they suddenly came running out like, "Oh," kind of thing, and
There you go.
yeah. So I didn't hear or see anyone. Nobody went in there at all, and we were just so excited when we'd sort of heard about that. I mean, it may be coincidence, but we were like, "Wow, did you experience Madame Nixon?"
That's great, though. That's fantastic that you had that. They had that experience.
Yeah.
Beely Boy saying built in
I was
1625,
just
Valley
looking at
Gala
that. Yeah,
Castle.
thank you.
There you go. I mean, no, somebody Google it. There's so the next building you said you wanted to mention was this one, and this is a very, very impressive, lovely looking building.
Oh,
There
I
it is,
love this house.
Spring Hill.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, like I say, obviously this looks kind of Georgian period. I mean, I may be wrong, but it's a very impressive building. So what can you tell me about Spring Hill?
Yeah, Spring Hill is a National Trust property in Moneymore. And again, it was somewhere I wanted to go to for a long time. And we eventually managed to get in there. And there's actually a really, really sad, conflicting story in there. There was originally a gentleman called George Cunningham and his wife Olivia, and he was away fighting and in battle. And while he was away, he'd heard that his children apparently were really unwell, and he wanted to come back. And he put his trust into his friend Lord Castlereagh, because they'd done favours for each other before. And he said to him, "Look, I need to leave. I need to go home and see the children." Anyway, he went home. Luckily, the children had got better, but the Lord actually betrayed him and reported him. And so, he got in trouble for desertion and ended up having to leave the military disgraced. Now, the story, well, there's two versions of the story. One version is that, unfortunately, because of this, he got very, very depressed. He got very upset. And there is a room in the house called the Blue Room, which is a bedroom upstairs. Now, he ended up, there's a gun room downstairs as well. He ended up, so they say he went to get a gun from the room and unfortunately tried to commit suicide. But unfortunately, he didn't actually pass away at that time. So he laid there for days in agony. Now, the other story is the possibility that his wife had done this because she was upset about the disgrace to the family, and because he'd been in this depression for so long. Anyway, when we went to the place, it was funny because the tour guide said that apparently they had, in recent time, discovered there was an actual a hidden room in that bedroom. And he said when they decided to open it up, and they opened it up to have a look in it, and they found a lady's gloves and a pistol that had been papered up and sealed in this room. Now, obviously, who knows? Nobody really knows the truth of the story. But, I mean, soldiers that were there years ago, there's a nursery, and the crib used to rock and knock against the wall constantly, to the point where they actually had the crib removed because it was freaking the soldiers out.
That's cool. I mean, the fact that that's your typical haunted kind of thing going right there.
Scary. Yeah. And then they apparently after the war, they then had the crib put back in there again. And so they say is that it started to rock again. Now, when I actually got to the house, I saw there was if you want to call it a spirit lady in one of the top right-hand windows. And she looked and she turned around and she walked away. Now, I didn't know this story and this history until I started researching it afterwards. And when I went into the house, it was quite funny because in the lobby in the front there, on the right-hand side, next to, I believe it's the library off the top of my head, I looked and there was a lady standing there. sort of again in a long dress and dark hair, and she was just looking at me from that room in the lobby. And she walked off, and then afterwards, I happened to talk to, because with the tour guide there was another lady that was
Yeah.
working there, and I just happened to say to her, and I said, "Excuse me," I said, "I am a medium." Da da da. We had a chat, and I said, "But there's a lady standing there," and she went, "Oh my goodness, you can see her." And I went, "Sorry?" She said, "You can see her," and I went, "Who?" And she said, "Olivia. She's said to haunt the house, and you can see her." And she's like, "Oh my goodness, if you see any more, you got to tell me." So she was kind of wandering along with me saying, "Can you see anything? Can you see anything? What's there?"
I mean, talking about, I mean, I know you mentioned about how you see these things, but how much detail can you see? Is it just a form, a shape? Can you physically see the color of the clothing, for instance?
Yeah.
What exactly are you picking up?
Sometimes I just see like silhouettes. I'll see the silhouette of something or someone, like especially because I do physical mediumship as well. So especially like when I'm doing seance cabinet, spirit board, I normally get silhouettes around people. Like for instance, if I said to you or anyone listening now, think back to what you did yesterday lunchtime.
Yeah.
That vision, so you in your mind, then go back to yesterday and see that you were, I don't know, sat in a coffee shop. The way you see that picture from yesterday is how I get my information.
Right. Okay.
So you know what I mean? It's almost like a rolling out stream of pictures sometimes. And yeah, it depends. Sometimes if the link is stronger, I can see more and I get, more features or like you said, colors of clothing and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
other times it's a bit distant. It's so strange that we can't just tune into everything spot on every time. It's so weird. I don't understand it actually. Even as
It
someone that gets these visions.
And one of the so one last place that we wanted to mention, or I had to mention, because actually because you mentioned obviously your dad being a druid,
Yeah.
and I thought, and I was looking at Northern Ireland, and I spotted Baig Moor Stone Circle, and honestly, before tonight, I'd never heard of Baig Moor Stone Circle in Northern Ireland,
Oh, it's
and
stunning.
just
Mhm.
so aerial shot first of all, that is. In terms of stone circles, usually you might get one stone circle if you're lucky. This place is
Yeah.
seven stone circles, 10 rows of stones, 12
Yep.
cairns, 12 over 1,200 stones. It is incredible an incredible location. So, what can you tell me about Baig Moor? Because
Oh,
it's stunning.
this place blew me away. And as you said, with my dad being a druid, we do go to a lot of stone circles or inauguration sites and carry out like druidic rituals because my dad likes to like sometimes he chants to the sun god and the four corners, and it's a beautiful experience. And so we wanted to go to Baigmore, and I must admit it is really remote. Like we were quite lost, we couldn't find it, and then when we did, oh my god, it was so worth the journey and the circling round and round. And when you go into it, like you said, there are seven stone circles. Now all of it is aligned with certain constellations. There is also a row of stones which people believe is a portal, and it has actually been passed down in stories. And there were stories in the past of there being burn marks on the ground which people believe was from where people or things were transporting from the portal.
Yeah.
Now, when you first walk into the sort of complex, because it's laid out over quite a vast bit of land, I believe I think it's the third one along. There is a wonderful stone circle that I've never seen one like it before, and it's known as the Dragon's Teeth. Now that has I think it's 1,100 stones all in it, so you can't actually walk into that one because it's full of stones, completely full.
Oh, is this? So
Oh
is
yeah,
this
you
the one
see
at the
that
top
one
left? Is that the
on
one?
the top left? Yeah, that's the Dragon's Teeth. And the weird thing was, as I walked along, if we're going from right to left, the second lot of stones, there was a lady standing there, and she was in a shawl, and she looked at me, and then over to the right, which is the Dragon's Teeth, where you just said about,
Yeah.
I kept hearing children, like children laughing and giggling, and then all of a sudden I saw three spirit children running around there. Now it was only me and my dad there. There was nobody else there on the day we went. And I said, that's really strange. Why is there spirit children kind of running around? Or maybe they were just from the local area. Now, it turns out, again, when researching this, that many years ago, there were actually the sort of remains and things. I think it was of like bones of children over by that Dragon's Teeth Circle.
Yeah.
Now, they think it's because obviously this was used for, burial practice, or burials and religious practice, beg your pardon, and for people to do kind of rituals many, many years ago. So, because there's several cairns there, obviously containing, remains as well, and they found lots of pottery and different things. And over at because it goes over to the left-hand side from the Dragon's Teeth as well, like there's more circles over there.
Yeah.
And again, when we got to that, there's two circles that are kind of facing each other. Now, one of them is really strange because it's got a big or two big pillars like entranceway circles, as though that is the main one that they would have used for their ritual practice. And as Dad and I went over there, and even Dad was like, oh, darling, can you feel it? Can you feel that energy? We need to do a wee ritual here, And then I saw a man who, like a spirit energy, who looked like some kind of chieftain. Like he was wearing like a long sort of dark, it was like a red and brown kind of robe. And he just kind of looked and acknowledged us. And he didn't say anything, because in my head, there's how I ask questions to spirit. I'll say it in my head. And he just nodded at us. And of course, then we went into that circle and did a ritual to the four corners. But the energy of that place, I mean, I kid you not, it's so silent there as well. You could hear a pin drop. But even if you're someone that's just, if you're not a medium or anything like that, if you just stand there and feel the earth's energy from there, it is something phenomenal. It's beautiful.
It is a beautiful place. Just very quickly, couple of things. John Boy, thank you so much for gifting your 5 memberships. I am aware in the chat, by the way. Thank you, everybody. And also, like I say, so thank you so much for that, John Boy. And again, I'm skipping the chat here because I just spotted as well that Kaza. Again, thank you so much, Kaza. You're always so generous. Thank you for gifting 20 memberships. I genuinely mean this. It does make such a massive difference for the support of the channel. So thank you so much for those gifting memberships, everybody. And Kaza, John Boy, thank you so much. Okay, now. What obviously, this place, like I said, I'd never come across before, and I mean, we've only kind of touched the surface of what Northern Ireland is all about. So
there's so much more. Even I'm finding new places all the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there any others that you wanted to? I mean, we are going to go into people's questions in a second.
Yeah.
So as I'll just put this up on the screen as well. So if you've got questions for Charlie, now is the time to start thinking of questions for you. So is there any other places that you think, if I was going to Northern Ireland, other than going to the Game of Thrones set, which I really would want to go to, by the way?
There's so many places known with the filming of that. Yeah.
Is there anywhere I should absolutely check out that you think would be well worth a visit?
I would say as well the Crumlin Road Jail in Belfast.
Yeah. Oh God, that's a go-to place, isn't it? Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. That's for me as a medium or a sensitive, that was heavy. I mean, obviously going into anywhere that has a very sort of negative or nasty history, obviously I do pick up on things, but I'm not fluffy with my mediumship, so I'll go anywhere in the name of research and experience. So definitely in there. I mean, especially when we were there's an underground tunnel that goes between the jail and the courthouse on the other side of the road, and we were walking down there, and a spirit child ran past me, and I kind of went, oh, and she giggled and she ran off. And I sort of turned to my mum, who's a medium as well, and I went, did you see that? And she said, oh, the child. I said, yeah, it's a little girl. And of course, I asked her name, and I heard her name as Annabelle. Now, a few minutes later, the tour guide up at he was quite far ahead. He went, it's well known, we have the ghost of a wee girl down here called Isabel. And we were like, oh my goodness. Like, so close to getting the name, and obviously then everyone turned around and wanted to know what we were cheering and blowing at, and so we told them all, and it was like, that place, because there was children, there was women, there was men, there was like everybody was packed in that jail years ago. So much history. You had all the people in there from the Troubles, that were prisoners in there, and they still got the original hangman's noose. It's dark.
Yeah, I've heard great things about Crumlin Jail. I've got to say,
wonderful. Yeah,
okay.
I've been there a few times. I really enjoyed it there.
Question here from Pomp is asking, where's the scariest place in Northern Ireland where you have been?
It would have to be the Crumlin Road jail, because I had a bit of a negative experience, only from a mediumistic perspective. When I was in one of the wings on the top floor, there was a very angry energy pacing back and forth. And he suddenly looked at me. And I mean, the look he gave me, I actually was just filled with dread and I felt sick. And I looked up and I thought, don't look, just ignore him, just carry on. But all I can say is it felt like all of a sudden, all of that anger, hate, nastiness, pain that he had suddenly went bang at me. And I was like, and my heart started going. I was like, you got to get me out of here for a minute. Just get me out. I just need to break this, energy fixture. I've got to get out of here. Yeah, and it is a very dark place. Even in the reception, it just feels heavy. It feels really heavy. But it's still great at the same time. That's what I mean. I've been there several times. I love it. So
yeah, it's. I mean, I've seen images of the place and I've heard people talk about it. It's definitely a great. It looks like a great looking place. Alexis is asking, how does it feel to have a druid for a father, and how many practitioners do you know? Are there a lot of them?
Like druid practitioners.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful because my dad, he's very, very like, he's a proper mystic. He's really wise. He's got so many stories to tell, and sometimes, like, even when at his house, he's got like a ritual room and an occult library, which, because I read religiously, so I'm like, oh my god, I need to read that big loads of piles of books, and it's just so magical because he's so positive and he's so connected and to the earth and at one with the earth. So it's so refreshing to sort of go out and carry out those practices with him as well, because obviously it was new to me. I mean, there's not as many sort of druids as there used to be. I mean, he basically just, goes and does his rituals himself now. I think there used to be a group of them. But I believe there are quite a few, druid groups started about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And was it, I mean, I suppose from what you've, was it a case where you kind of like went along with your dad to support him, or did you get actively involved in that as well?
When I was younger, I did actually start learning some of the initiations, but that was back when I was doing my music. And then, of course, I got my record deal, my music career took off, and I kind of went away to America. So I didn't really look any more into it, but I just get involved with it with him because I really enjoy it. And it just feels so peaceful and so nice. And it really does sort of ground you again and connect you to the elements and the earth. And
yeah,
it's very nice.
Simpler things.
Yeah.
Belfast Crafty, Nick, no. I'm just not going to do a Northern Ireland
accent. Come on, Justin. Do it. Give me your Northern Ireland.
As Beardo said, right, I will cause some kind of international incident. Right? It's not going to be a good thing. No, I'm chickening out of that one. Okay, Christine said, have you been to any haunted pubs in Northern Ireland, and have you experienced anything there?
Haunted pubs? The only one I have been to, and oh my goodness, the name's gone out of my head. Is it the 10 Bells? No, it's not. Do you know, I can't remember the name of it. There's a famous pub like by the station in Belfast, and like it's really old looking in there, and it's, that's going to annoy me now. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's the 10 Bells. And yeah, we went in there, but because I literally was just in there with family for a little while, I didn't really pick up on much, but it does have a very, like, it's got a heavy energy in there.
Yeah.
Like, because it's been there for so many years. So
somebody know. Belfast Crafty Nick, she'll know. If she's from Belfast, she'll know. Roger's saying, Charlie, what do you think the main signs are that someone has medium qualities, and can they vary from person to person?
Yes. I mean, I think, like, saying about varying from person to person, like my mom is a medium as well, and we sometimes work together on stage, and we sense in very different ways. Like, I see, feel, and hear spirit, but with her, she doesn't hear it at all like I do. She just gets like a knowing. She knows information. She knows when things are going to happen. So it can vary. Like, I've met people before that they're like, why can't I see, but I can hear? Or why do I just feel and I can't? And for some reason, we all have different ways of doing it, different abilities. Now, signs of it if like for instance, if you're in a place and you start to suddenly see a vision, or however your sense picks it up, of a person, or you start knowing things about sort of people, or knowing about someone in their life, or anything like that, like I was saying earlier about the gut instinct as well, just your natural intuition, you can enhance that. And meditation, like I know people used to always say to me, oh, you need to meditate, and I was like, oh. But you know what, when I started really doing it and doing it seriously and properly, it really helps. Really helps.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for that. Simon, who's a big music fan, saying, "What's your band?"
Oh, I used to be the bass player and backing vocalist of the female rock group, the Suffragettes. The Suffragettes with a JETS. We were signed to a subsidiary of Sony, and we did our album in America and toured around lots and lots. And that was really good fun. Really good fun.
Very good. What's this weirdo asking about my crap jumper? Bugger off! It's not crap. It's right. Have you ever seen Justin's horrid? It's not horrid. It's very fetching. Thank you very much, Beardo. So, right, moving on. Nick is saying, "Do you believe in the Fae?"
Do you know, somebody actually, when I had a reading myself from somebody, said that I was of Fae bloodline. So apparently I was connected to the fairies too, I think, is what I've been told. Now, I believe in them in the sense of there's obviously some kind of magic there that made this story happen, or somebody saw something, or somebody felt something, because especially in Ireland there's stories from many years ago about fairies. Now, I actually have been to the Antrim Glens, which is apparently where where it's a known place that the fairies dwell, and I must admit I did go there hoping I would see a fairy. I really wanted to see one. I'd love to see one. I haven't, but I do believe that there must be something there in order for people to have these ongoing stories.
It is fascinating. You know, the whole Irish
Yeah.
folklore around the Fae and fairies is genuinely really
Yeah.
interesting. There you go. I knew Nick would work it out. So it's called the Crown Bar. There you
Oh,
go.
the one in
pub that
Belfast.
I think
Thank you.
mentioned
That
in
was. Do
Belfast.
you know? I can even see it. I can see the interior of it and everything. And it's just woo, away with the fairies. There you go. Boom, boom.
There you go. I'm just going to scan through in case there's any other questions for you. There we go. Dealey Boys asking. There you go. Love your tales, Charlie. So as a medium, Charlie, what are these entities that you sense? Are they lost spirits?
See, that's what I was saying earlier about the whole quantum thing, because I'm not exactly sure what I feel they are for definite anymore. Without a doubt, I believe something is there. And obviously, because when I give mediumship readings, I will get a spirit energy telling me something to say to the sitter that's with me. So there's obviously something present there. Sometimes I think some of it may be residual, like what I call quantum imprints on time. So like when I said I can sometimes see another time playing out at the present time, I do think that some of that is just an imprint. And funny enough, my mum and I recently, now I'm going to try and explain this without blowing everyone's minds, because it blew our minds as well. We were looking into the whole thing of quantum, and we'd seen a program that completely triggered us into trying these tests. Now, we started talking about the imprints that we all leave behind if all of time is just there. So, for instance, me just saying that to you guys just then, is now a quantum imprint on time, because it's now there and I'm now here with you and we're going to be there in a minute. I know it's like, ooh, but I do think we were trying this, me and my mum. And the funny thing is, maybe because we are able to see things because we're so used to it now that our brains just see and experience these things. But my mum and I then started moving around the lounge at hers, and we were creating all these new imprints of ourselves. And of course, the more we did it, and we got so carried away with it because it was like magic, that we started seeing our previous selves that were an imprint a moment ago in the room. And we're like, whoa, hang on. We can see each other like from a minute ago. And this is why,
That's
yeah, and
weird.
we literally for about 3
Yeah.
hours just were doing this. We're like, well, this is bizarre, but obviously because we both are mediums, we are in tune. And that's why I say I do personally think that everybody, once you make your brain aware or your mind, aware of these things we can see, of these things we can actually tap into, whether it's from the future, from the past, I believe everybody can. And even little tests, like for instance, now this is more psychic than mediumship, but I actually test myself in order to train myself more with them abilities. Like I've got, I don't know if
Yeah.
anyone's got, Zena cards with the shapes on them. Like I'll sit just in my normal everyday, like if I'm watching telly or I'm in between writing when I'm having a break, and I'll be testing myself with the Zena cards, going through the deck just to enhance that psychic capability. And the same with if I'm on the way to work, I'll be like playing a game, like having a game with myself on the way to work, saying, right, what color card is going to come along next? And I'll see what comes around the corner. They're all just little ways that you can enhance and train yourself more to be in tune with this and aware of these energies we can tap into around us.
Awesome. Thank you. Lynn68 is saying, Charlie, when you're on stage doing readings, how do you cope with all the voices trying to connect all at once to loved ones?
Sometimes it's because I must admit I haven't been on platform in quite a while because I've been so busy with writing and filming. But when I do it, or even when I'm in the seance cabinet, for me, it feels like I have a queue of people behind me. Like I'm conscious that they're there. I can see them in here. I can feel them standing behind me. And it's strange because even though their energy is behind, I can actually see it in here already, even though it's behind me. It's so strange to explain. But I normally, like if it gets too much, because sometimes I might get one energy sort of trying to show me stuff and tell me things, and then another one will come in, and then I'm like, and in my head, obviously, because I've got to be conscious because I'm on stage, I can't just start going, oh well, you do that, you stop it, because then I'll seem like a crazy lady. But in my head, I'll take a deep breath and I'll just say, can you just step back a minute? Can you just back off a bit? Give me a minute. And then what I do, whichever of the energies is the strongest and is coming through more prominent, and I can see them more, and I'm getting the information more, then I'll bring that one forward and tap into that first, whichever one's the strongest one.
Fabulous, thank you. Another one from Nick saying, have you gone to any of the locations of the Island McGee witches? I'd never even heard of them until very recently.
Do you know what? I've not actually heard of that myself. So that'll be what I could look into, yeah. Island McGee witches.
And there's just one here from Mike, just very good. So going to stop fairly soon, guys, but more from Mike saying about your camera having the data error. Do you think it's because the paranormal isn't allowed to be captured on camera? And if so, do you have a theory about why it's not allowed?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I mean, obviously, that kind of logical part of me did kind of think, well, is it just coincidence and the camera just kind of broke? Is it, or it just failed, or the memory card? But the timing of it and the events that had happened before, like with Dad and what he'd seen, and the the lady energy that I felt behind me. In honesty, part of me felt, was it that, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have tried that. Maybe the spirit energy doesn't like us filming there. I'm not too sure. It's a very interesting. That's really got me thinking now. Thank you for that question. I'll be thinking about that all evening. But I think, because if they didn't want us to capture them on camera or on these digital devices, why wouldn't they want us to capture them? I'm not too sure. Yeah.
Ghost Wiener, member for 2 months. Thank you for being a member for 2 months. Can you do your Northern Ireland accent? Now then, Ghost Wiener, there is a big difference between me trying to do a really crap Northern Ireland accent with the likes of Side Eye Guy or any other YouTuber, and actually doing a Northern Ireland accent in front of somebody from Northern Ireland. There's a big difference. Come on
now, Justin. You want to.
No, no. Can't do it. Crap. Absolute crap. Anyway, I'm just good at that. No.
We'll get him to do it in a minute.
Stop it. Because the people in the chat will not let me carry on. Anyway. Oh, God. Right. One here from Julie. Then we'll probably stop in a second before I get too embarrassed. Julie saying, do you think telling someone that their loved one's still around does more damage than good? They can't go through the natural grieving process.
Well, funny enough, I gave a reading to, excuse me, a lady a couple of years ago, and normally the people that come to you, the people that come to, get messages, or the people that go to the spiritualist churches do want to connect with their relatives. They've come there for a message. They have come there for some kind of, closure and peace. Like I wouldn't give, like, even in my normal everyday life, I know who I sort of can and can't talk to about spirit, or if I meet people and I just think, oh no, I shouldn't talk about this to them, they won't like it. With regards to you were saying the grieving, that's what's saying about the message I gave a couple of years ago. I gave a message to, excuse me, a lady, and I kept seeing, I won't go into it, but I kept seeing a child, I kept seeing a toy by a front door, and I got a name through, and I told the lady, and she had just randomly come along. We weren't actually having a private reading. She was just there kind of listening, and she got really, really upset, and she came up to me afterwards and she said that unfortunately I think her child had passed away, and she said, I hadn't really thought about it, and funny enough, she went away and came back the next week anyway. And the long story short, she came up to me and she thanked me and she started crying. And she said, I actually didn't realize until you came out with this, because I said about her car, I said about her child, I said the color of the car, I said about the house, things in the house, and the toy that I'd said by the door. She told me that she didn't realize she hadn't grieved for her child until I told her all of this. And she said she went home and she cried and cried and cried, but she said it got that out. She didn't realize she hadn't let it out. And she said what you were seeing with the toy by the door is, she said that bizarrely one of the kids' toys kept being moved to the front door. And so, this toy just kept being moved there. And so she said, that's bizarre that you knew that and you picked up that. She was like, have you been in my house? I was like, no, I haven't really, So I guess it depends on the person. And I think sometimes it can actually help with the grieving process and feeling that kind of comfort, and it makes people feel more at peace with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Kaza, I don't know whether to thank you or not for this one. So yeah, thank you very much for the 10 Australian dollars. I do appreciate it, but you're now making me do a Northern Irish accent. So I know that some people, and I know that Nick, who's watching this as well, is probably absolutely wetting herself because she's from Northern Ireland, who really, really don't want me to. Oh my God. Right. I'm going to ask Charlie, is there a phrase I should try to say in a Northern Irish accent?
I reckon you should say the good old Northern Irish hello, which is, what about you?
Oh my God.
Come on, say, what about you, Charlie?
Jesus. Do you know, look, particularly when you're laughing as well, I can't do it.
Right, straight face.
Fucking hell. Right, hang on. What about you? Any good?
Awesome.
Crap. Probably crap.
What about you, Justin?
Right. Jesus. That's so hard. Yay. Anyway, enough. Kaza, thanks for that. Thank you very, very much. Oh, no. Right. So, God. Oh, Jesus. Right. Anyway, if people want to get hold of you, the last thing I'm going to say, before I do any more crap Irish accents, is there any way? I know that the lovely Weird Fox has been posting links to your Facebook and things like that, but if people want to try to get hold of you, or is there a way to they can visit you on social media, for instance? Do you have a profile of things that?
Yeah, I mean, on Facebook, it's Haunted Chalie Hall. Twitter, or X is it now, is I think it's Haunted Charlie H. And obviously, I'm at the Independent Horror Society and Haunted Magazine.
Fantastic. Thank you. Just say it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. People are trying to make me do Father Ted impressions now. Bugger off.
Sorry. All right,
stop it. Yeah, I know. I'm not saying anything about Bishop Brennan. Nothing. Right? Not going there. Not going there. Anyway, Charlie, it's been an absolute pleasure to have
Thank
you on.
you.
Thank you so much for it's been an absolute delight and just really funny and just really, really interesting.
Oh,
Really
thank you. I've really
interesting.
enjoyed it. Thank you.
People in the chat, I will get my own back on every drink girl, feck, arse nuns. Right. I'm going to get my own back on everybody in the chat. But anyway, thank you. It's been awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, hopefully get you on again in the future some point as well.
No, thank you so much for inviting me on. And thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Right. I'll just finish stuff there. Everybody in the chat, you're a bunch of bastards for making me trying to do an Irish accent in front of somebody from Northern Ireland. Oh, dear God. I'm still, look, this is me, not because I'm hot. This is me because I'm very slightly embarrassed. Anyway, thank you very much. And as for the thong chat that was going on, what the bloody hell was going on with the thongs thing? Anyway, yeah, thanks, guys. Thank you very much for that. Right, I'm not going to be doing a Chips Tea party this week, so I'll be back on next Monday. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you for John Boy to Kaza for the donations, and thank you guys for keeping me entertained and trying to. And I was very much trying not to crack up laughing because I was noticing the chat. I'm just trying to focus on the guest. So. I hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody, and I shall see you again next Monday. All right. Night, guys.